boys. I remember, my teacher asked my mom during their parent-teacher conference if I was mentally okay, because it was definitely a social stigma back then to be friends with people of the opposite gender. But the three of us were inseparable. And I remember all the games we made up on our elementary school playground, all the lunches we shared, and the many birthdays that we spent together. But as we grew older, we started to drift apart. Now, the three of us all go to different schools. And our group chat has been empty for years. Okay, now quick poll. How many of you guys regularly text your third grade best friends? Okay, well, I'm assuming not many of you. But for an experience that's so universal, it's a topic that many of us choose to avoid. And yet, it's actually just as important for us to discuss the loss of friendships as it is to discuss friendships themselves. Because it's in understanding why they matter so much to us that we can begin to understand why losing them hurts. And ultimately, how to move forward with the loss. And to start, we need to look at how friendships shape our very identity. You've probably heard the quote, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." But why is that? Well, in 1986, psychologists Arthur Aron and Elaine Aron developed a model now known as the self-expansion model. This model explains how human connections are related to psychological well-being. It suggests that people seek to enhance their own identities by incorporating others' skills, perspectives, and resources into their own self-concept. In other words, when you form a close bond with someone, you begin to see the world through their eyes as well, adopting their perspectives. Which is why when that person in your life leaves, it feels like you're almost literally losing a slice of yourself. Now, as you're sitting in this audience tonight, there's a good chance that you might be sitting next to a friend. Now, if you are, I'm going to bring some bad news here. Because a study done by sociologist Gerald Mollenhurst found that you lose about half of your close network members every 7 years. There's about a 50% chance that in 7 years' time, your friend right now will no longer be your friend. In adolescent friendships, it was found that the top 3 reasons why friendships ended were as follows. Conflict, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, lack of social support, and parents' interference with the children's relationships. And around 86% of all adolescents commonly experienced deterioration in their friendships. But I would argue that the most common reason why any friendship could drift apart is natural change. The interdependence theory revolves around this idea that individuals in a relationship are, interdependent, meaning our actions and outcomes are influenced by each other. Which is why when we attach to people emotionally, losing them almost feels like abandonment. That is attachment theory, which I've just attached to interdependence theory. Because in this context, they're actually interdependent. Losing a friend really hurts. It can often hurt more than a breakup or a fight with your parents. But since this is such a common experience in high school and beyond, it's important to equip yourself with the knowledge of what now? What do you do when the so inevitable breakup of a friendship happens? You have to reframe what that friendship meant to you, even when the world today tells us something so different. Our culture currently has an obsession with self-obsession. We are way too self-centered And this shows in how we become distant from people. I'm going to put up some quotes, and I want to see if you can recognize any of them. Every single one of these is meant to convince us that we should always put ourselves before others. And while in certain scenarios, it's really obvious when you need to let go of a toxic friend, it's important that we don't use this same mentality to mask grief. Sometimes it's not that they lost you or you lost them. In most situations, you both lose each other. Maybe there is no wrong person. And so we heal from broken friendships by turning them into stories, not painful scars or heavy burdens. You might have heard that time heals all wounds, but I don't think so. Because time for us is limited, and it's fleeting. I mean, we only have so much time here on earth, and so there must be something that can transcend this so-called limited time. And I think that something is a story. But too often, we think the answer is other people. We bury our old friendships with the idea that we can just replace them with new friends. And while this might be true for some, the insistence of this approach can be especially harmful for someone who is trying to cope with the loss of a friendship that meant the world to them. Instead, psychology professor Dan McAdams says that stories help us smooth out some of the decisions we have made and help create something meaningful and sensible out of the chaos of our lives. The power of narrative is incredible. Now, I'm not telling you to go and twist the story of your friendship, but rather to reflect on it. Maybe it wasn't your fault, but maybe it wasn't theirs either. Because the ending of a friendship doesn't have to be bitter, tragic, and sad. It can be honoring to the memories you have with them and to the person they once were in your life. When my third grade friendship, that at the time I truly thought would last forever, slowly faded from my life, I won't say that I easily got over it, because I didn't. And I like to think that we never truly forget and disconnect from the people we once loved, but rather we find a way to move on regardless of their absence. What started off as just not having lunches together anymore turned into seeing their Instagram stories and wondering, how are they doing? And wistfulness isn't pathetic. It's natural. Now, there isn't always one easy solution for coping with the loss of a friendship. But there is something we can do beyond just fixing our mindset to help us truly move forward with grief. And it's to turn pain into your own narrative. To actually write that story. Pen to paper, write a letter you will never send. Sometimes you'll be surprised at how vulnerable you sound. Maybe you'll realize your own faults through expressing your anger at them. Maybe that would be healthy for you. But you won't know until you write. That letter validates how you feel and acts as a symbolic message of letting it go. And maybe one day things will change. Friends aren't necessarily permanent, but neither are friendship breakups. Friendships are stories. And some friends are just chapters, not timeless tales. Even the most unexpected ones. Yes, all friendships are stories. And all stories have value. And maybe one day, remembering that is how we can all get over that empty group chat too. Thank you.